building strategy. With that in mind, I think the only way to really talk about it is to start taking a look at the game and seeing exactly how Jamie is going to be using this Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see how his team's going to be utilized and whether that Magnezone is going to cause trouble. I know it's one you're certainly keeping an eye on there, Adam. The opponent here is Marco Girorgi, and it's going to be bringing out the Talonflame and the Lapras as Jamie brings out the Porygon Z and the Volcarona. So a big offensive start here from Jamie, but also that Lapras, if it is the Gigantamax form, we've seen that be built either defensively or really offensively with something like a Life Orb. So there could be some very big damaging turns coming out in turn one.
Yep, I mean, I think Jamie's whole team, all four of the Pokemon we saw that he's brought to this match, are exceptionally good at dealing big damage. The Porygon Z, again, making a feature appearance in the Players' Cup, something that people have seen. They've got access to it through the Isle of Armor and are excited to use it. It definitely has coverage, and that coverage could be really strong against this Talonflame and Lapras. We do know, though, Lapras is exceptionally good at helping your team withstand big attacks. Being able to set up the G-Max Resonance, really, really cool. And Jamie immediately making a switch, wanting to get the Grassy Surge into play from the Rillaboom. And the Rillaboom, we know, can do a whole lot with control of the terrain.
Yeah, I like this switch here from Jamie. The Volcarona, obviously a great Pokemon to help out with something like a Rage Powder for some redirection, but when you're facing down against something like a Lapras, you're just going to be a target for a potential Max Geyser, and Jamie wants to keep that in the back, so bringing in the Rillaboom to apply pressure to it in the next turn with something like a Grassy Glide or even something more powerful like a Wood Hammer puts him in a good position as Porygon Z Dynamaxes up, and it will be applying a lot of big offensive pressure. We've touched a little bit on Porygon Z, and depending on the move pool that it can have, we see a lot of Pokemon trainers running things like Dark Pulse and Thunderbolt on there as well, and being able to access the max move of the Thunderbolt will be able to apply a lot of pressure to both the Pokemon on Marco's team here.
Yeah, being able to get access to Max Lightning is definitely helpful. Of course, you do have to be a little bit careful if you're trying to keep control of that terrain. That's something that I think Jamie's going to have to think about. But Lapras doing its favorite thing, setting up G-Max Resonance, making sure that there's some kind of defenses there to try and help out against the offensive power that Jamie has thrown down on the field there.
Yeah, Aurora Veil is definitely one way to sort of negate some of the damage that Porygon Z can deal out. It's going for its signature here, it's going for the Max Strike into that Talonflame. Looks like it's picked up the solid one-hit KO there against that Talonflame, and will be reducing the speed of that Lapras as well, just making it potentially a more vulnerable target to something like a powerful Wood Hammer coming out from that Rillaboom in the terrain. Could deal a huge amount of damage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Talonflame doesn't get knocked out. It's still sticking around. So we do see the real value that you can get from the G-Max Resonance there and bringing that Aurora Veil. That said, I mean, both trainers kind of changing things up. A lot of damage down on the Talonflame, but no damage down on the Lapras. And if you leave that Lapras just sat on the field, taking, you know, no damage, it's just going to be able to start punishing you for that and keep really pushing on once it's set up behind that Aurora Veil. That said, it's now in the face of the Rillaboom, and we've already seen, I think, in early Series 5, Rillaboom handles Lapras pretty comfortably.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I must have been distracted by the Porygon Z there, but I'm very surprised to see the Talonflame actually managing to survive. It's not known as one of the bulkiest Pokemon. I like the switch in here from the Alola Marek, often a Pokemon carrying that Lightning Rod ability, so if there was a potential Max Lightning coming out from this Porygon Z to target against the Lapras, that would draw in that attack and waste one of the max moves on the Porygon Z that will have to take another big attack there from the Lapras. Not enough to pick up the KO, but another one will certainly finish that off later on. The Max Strike coming out, going into that Lapras, but you can see how much this Aurora Veil is really helping out Marco's team. The Max Strike barely doing any damage to that Lapras.
Yeah, but I think what's more important than landing the damage off the Max Strike is actually landing the speed drops. We did get the Tailwind from Talonflame in turn number 1, so he needs to find a way to counteract that, right? He needs to be able to stop that from just letting this Lapras run away with the game, and really important for him there to kind of buy time as well, being able to slow things down a little bit, make sure that, you know, the Lapras isn't going to be exceptionally speedy and exceptionally defensive. That's an absolute nightmare combination to handle. But the Porygon not getting the kind of big knockouts. We talked about it in our previous round. The Porygon just dealing mainly speed drops that's more important right now.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting those speed drops against the Lapras, like you said, to negate the Tailwind. And while those Pokemon stay on the field after Tailwind, they're still going to be in effect. Max Darkness coming out, though, from that Porygon Z into the Alola Marowak does a huge chunk of damage and will be reducing the special defense as well of those Pokemon on Marco's side of the field. But thanks once again to that Aurora Veil, not going to be picking up the KO as Lapras goes for another G-Max Resonance, targeting the Volcarona that is switched in, though. Thanks to its typing, able to hang on there thanks to it not being super effective despite a critical hit. So Volcarona is in a position where it can help out with some redirection going into the next turn as Porygon Z falls down to the Flare Blitz. So Jamie really switching up his Pokemon a lot, trying to establish a strong ball position. He's got his Volcarona in. I don't want to say unscathed, it has taken a big chunk of damage, but it now allows him to bring another Pokemon back in, maybe something like the Rillaboom to apply some fake out pressure going forward.
Yep, I think bringing in Rillaboom here could be pretty interesting to see, bringing that fake out. Of course, that is the last turn of the Dynamax for Lapras, even though it's not changed yet. He's not going to bring Rillaboom right now. He's going to show us the Urshifu, so that may be able to try and help out a little bit here, particularly against the Marowak. I mean, should easily be able to deal with the Marowak. But then the Volcarona's left on its own to try and deal with the Lapras, which isn't always the most fun. I do like Volcarona here. I think Volcarona provides definitely a mind game for your opponent to play. For those of you who haven't seen it in previous formats, it is something that has been popular in previous years. If you leave it alone, it's going to Quiver Dance and then deal huge damage. But then if you target it, it's just going to Rage Powder and bring every attack over to it rather than one. So can certainly cause problems and get in your opponent's head a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right. The mind games here are really strong. If Volcarona maybe wants to go for some redirection, it is at low health, but it might be able to just save Urshifu from taking some kind of damage. But Urshifu is like, hey, I can deal it out. Goes for a strong close combat straight into that Lapras, picks up the KO. The one problem, of course, now is Urshifu's stats will be dropped as well, leaving it a little bit more vulnerable. And with no direction from the Volcarona, this could be dangerous. Heat Wave does manage to connect, though, onto that Marowak, a move that sometimes you have to cross your fingers for. It's not the most accurate of moves. But picks up the KO, doing single target with a critical hit as well. So Jamie looking to be in a really strong position here. He's still got that Rage Powder to redirect the next turn, meaning Urshifu can still deal out some big damage.
Yep, Urshifu's probably feeling pretty good about its chances right now. Being able to tidy up there, really, really helpful. And we see why a lot of people have been leaning towards bringing it. And why Lapras has fallen down. I think when we were in Series 4, Lapras was pretty much top of the pecking order for Gigantamaxes. I don't know if it was the exact top, but it was certainly popular. And being able to knock it out quite comfortably with the close combat from Urshifu, certainly something you like to see. We saw the Volcarona there, wants to make sure that the attack from the Talonflame gets redirected. That would be really, really important. But he does have to worry, that Urshifu could deal big damage. And don't forget, Jamie's Urshifu close combated first, so his defenses are already a little bit lower than the defenses on Marco's side.
Yeah, Volcarona here going straight for that Rage Powder, going to take the dual Wing Beat coming out from the Talonflame, one of those new moves that's been introduced. Does deal some good damage, but Volcarona able to hang on, meaning it will also redirect away this Wicked Blow. Phenomenal move here from the the Urshifu on Jamie's side, that was, going into the Talonflame. Picks up the KO, of course, going to be guaranteed critical hit, but at the low HP. I'm pretty sure Talonflame is going down anyway. As Urshifu goes for the close combat, this is the Urshifu being redirected, picks up the KO against that Volcarona. And Jamie, his Urshifu is at a lower defensive stat. It's dropped now twice from that close combat, but we did see that it was the faster.
Yep, I think that's really interesting to know. And it's nice to see something that happened earlier in the game that we didn't touch on. When we saw that Volcarona switch in, did activate a Seed and get its defenses up. So getting its defense up actually meant it took the dual Wing Beat, and that meaning it was able to then redirect the close combat. Now we're in an Urshifu mirror where they've both got their defenses dropped, and of course, the fake out pressure is here from Jamie. So his endgame position is a lot more comfortable than Marco's.
Yeah, it looks like a perfect situation for him there. He can go for the fake out and then go for a move with his own Urshifu. If the opposing Urshifu wants to protect, then on the next turn, his Urshifu was faster. And also, due to that grassy terrain, max strikes can enable you to deal out. But either way, you know, the Aurora Veil definitely threw him a few challenges. So let's jump into game 2 and see if that Porygon Z is maybe to deal out a little bit more damage, or if the composition on Marco's side will be able to counter it.
Yeah, and I think Marco has options. I really don't see, you know, that there was anything wrong with the early stages of his play. I think that the Tailwind was nice. Obviously, the Aurora Veil is absolutely fantastic. But, you know, the Talonflame is a little limited after it sets up that Tailwind, I think. So we'll be curious to see if there's any changes in exactly how things get played here. You know, the Volcarona took a Resonance on the way in previously, taking that for the Rillaboom, and kind of showing that Volcarona now it could get caught a little bit short. It looks like Jamie's keen to start playing around with it, and we'll see if maybe the Max Darkness is going to be essential here in lowering those special attacks and kind of helping out, making a pseudo version of Aurora Veil for him. Like, if he can't do damage, why is Marco allowed to do damage, right?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to combat some of the strategies that are going on here with a few statistic drops. But I think it's interesting as well with that Volcarona. We saw him bring it out in game 1, but instantly retrieve it back into its Pokeball and bring out, I believe it was the Rillaboom there. So if you're Marco, you're going to be wondering if this is something that Jamie's going to do again. And if Jamie can predict that that's going to happen and maybe Volcarona will be led untouched, he can go for something like a Quiver Dance and start boosting up. But another Pokemon he can boost up is, of course, that Porygon Z. Gonna go straight on the offensive and Dynamax it and apply a lot of pressure with things like the Max Strikes and Max Darkness as well to start reducing the special defense on the opposing side, which will help out the Volcarona that has stayed in.
Yeah, and I think it's curious, actually. We did take a little look at his moveset there on the Porygon Z. Something I didn't realize in game number 1 is he's got such a strange moveset on it. The fact that the Porygon Z has Trick Room, usually something we see on Porygon 2, but that does limit his coverage options, right? You're used to seeing a Max Strike with Max Lightning and, you know, then a coverage move like the Max Darkness. But not having that, it just kind of limits the options here, and I think Jamie's really relying on certain windows there. We do see the G-Max Resonance heading towards the Volcarona, and obviously with the boost and it not being a Rillaboom, it's not going to be a knockout there.
Yeah, Marco, I think predicting that Jamie's going to go for the same strategy, bring in the Rillaboom here, but instead Volcarona able to take that really well, and predicting that the Talonflame is very likely going to go for the Tailwind, start boosting up the speed in the face of some Max Strikes, is able to utilize this and go for that Quiver Dance, boosting itself up with its speed as well, as Jamie does go for the Max Darkness into that Talonflame. Not going to be picking up any KOs, but I think the crucial thing here is reducing that special defense. That's something that's going to counter some of the pressure that the Aurora Veil has applied.
Yep, I mean, he absolutely has to try and start dealing knockouts. You know, you don't want to leave Lapras on the field as long as you did last time. Even though you got the win, it's still something I think players have to worry about a little bit there. So even that as well, every Max Darkness that you keep going with is going to get more and more valuable because you're getting the drop. So really smart play here, I think, from Jamie. And I do really like the adaptation. The Quiver Dance, you know, saying, hey, I'm actually going to leave it here. It's not the Rillaboom. Sorry about that. But I'm going to get a Quiver Dance up, and now I'm going to be a huge problem for you.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as a Pokemon has boosted up its stats, you can't ignore it on the field. Volcarona does avoid the Max Windbeat there, so leaving itself in a great position. Max Geyser going into the Porygon Z slot as well, so not a double target up there from Marco. As you can see, Porygon Z able to take that, but I think crucially setting up the Rain here to negate some of the fire-type damage that Heat Wave would deal out. Really, really good play there by Marco, but instead it's going to be the Giga Drain, dealing good damage and also regaining some HP, putting Volcarona back into that strong position of being at full HP as Max Strike comes out again from the Porygon Z. I'm not sure, did that actually manage to pick up the KO?
It's going to be exceptionally close. It didn't get there, and the Lapras just clinging on. I think it's funny, the Volcarona Giga Drains the Lapras. It doesn't look that overwhelming in damage, but then because of the difference in health points, yeah, it's a big difference, and the Volcarona is now at full health. Obviously, the dual wing beat missing does hurt Marco a lot there. One of the drawbacks of that move is the chance that you miss, and that, I think, is huge for Jamie. Allowing the Volcarona to Giga Drain, allowing it to set back up, really, really important there. So really kind of good turn from here. The Volcarona hasn't even got its boost yet, so may have to wait a little bit for that. But Lapras is scared on this last turn of its Gigantamax.
Yeah, knowing that it's quite a vulnerable target here to the Volcarona, just goes for the max guard. Volcarona this time not able to dodge out of the way of the dual wing beat. You can see how much damage that dealt. Would have been so crucial for Marco in the previous turn. Lapras managing to protect itself, but Porygon Z going for that max darkness, going to reduce the special defense down even further, and manages to pick up the KO against that Talonflame. So doesn't have to worry about Tailwind potentially being set up in the future, and also Volcarona doesn't have to worry about any more dual wing beats.
Yep, I think getting rid of the threat of dual wing beat is absolutely huge, not just for the Volcarona, but if he has bought the Urshifu in the back, and of course the Rillaboom, yeah, you definitely want to get rid of that. So really smart play to make sure that is constantly targeted down, because that did get switched out and kind of, I guess, give Jamie a bit of a scare in the last game. That is the Dynamax over. We're going to have no more of that in this game, but this Volcarona is still sat on the field with its boost. There is rain up, so it's not going to be able to just throw out heat waves as many Volcaronas are known to do once they've kind of got their quiver dance set up, but it's going to be able to recover a little bit, and yeah, just having a dark type move could be really helpful here in dealing with the Marowak.
Yeah, I really like this position here for Jamie. Although the Volcarona isn't going to be dealing out many heat waves in the rain, that also means the Marowak isn't going to be dealing out too many flare blitzes either. Just won't be at the same sort of potential damage that it would be previously. It also means that Volcarona is in a great position to just go for a Giga Drain into that Lapras, leaving Porygon Z that we know has Dark Pulse on there, free to target down against the Marowak. But instead, Porygon Z just going to go straight up for a Protect here. Going to use the Giga Drain on the Volcarona to KO the Lapras and regain a little bit of HP as well. Even though it is raining, that Marowak can deal out so much damage. So if it's going for something like a Poltergeist, one of the new moves as well, targeting down into that Volcarona, it's going to attack itself with its own item and will be KO'd. The interesting thing about this move is it doesn't work if the Pokemon you're targeting doesn't have an item, and the fact that Grass Seed hadn't been activated this game meant Volcarona was unfortunately going to be KO'd.
Yeah, I mean, if the Porygon had switched for the Rillaboom, it could have been a much different turn there. It doesn't do that, and does, of course, kind of fall, to the Poltergeist. And Poltergeist, I think, is a really, really cool new move. It's one of those that we've seen Alola Marowak before. We've seen it up there at the very top tables in the past. But now it's in a rough position. The Talonflame and the Lapras have both fallen, and this dark fighting Urshifu is going to be able to deal with another Urshifu and a Marowak quite comfortably, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is where things get a little bit interesting. The Marowak can't target into that Porygon Z with Poltergeist being a normal type Pokemon. And at the same time, Marowak has to worry about a Wicked Blow or a Dark Pulse coming out from either of Jamie's Pokemon. With the Porygon Z, though, being so vulnerable on the field to a fighting type move from the Urshifu, it could be the opportunity to maybe switch out its Pokemon and bring that Rillaboom in, just to maybe take some damage or apply a Fake Out in the next turn into that Urshifu.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with that. Is bringing a kind of Fake Out pressure, just keep it on the field, just to try and kind of slow things down, of course. The Marowak would like to Flare Blitz it, but the rain is still up from that earlier Vortex, so really going to struggle to do exactly what it does. And with the Protect, he's getting away with it absolutely scot-free. If he can take the close combat here, which he's going to do, and it's going to take a lot of damage, now the Urshifu's stats are dropped, which makes it a whole lot easier to manage in the late game.
Yeah, its stats are dropped, and it's going to be targeted by the Porygon Z as well. Doesn't manage to get the KO, though. Is going to be able to regain a slither of health from that grassy terrain. But I think most crucially for Marco, the Urshifu is able to hang around on the field at this turn. The problem he's got, though, is Jamie has now brought in that Rillaboom. The Grassy Glide, having that priority in the grassy terrain, will be able to pick up the KO against that Urshifu, and Porygon Z with the Dark Pulse and the Urshifu that Jamie has wisely protected in the back are going to be able to apply so much pressure to that Marowak once the Urshifu has been dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the Marowak's not in a great position right now in the rain. The Urshifu being so low, probably not even going to be given the chance or opportunity to attack with so much priority, or two priority options, from this Rillaboom on Jamie's side of the field. So a really kind of well-positioned set. I like that he threw out the Urshifu, showed that he had it, and then just took it right back out to let kind of close combats go off and make sure he could get good damage down on it. The Grassy Glide will fall into the Protect, and then Dark Pulse, into the Marowak. Not quite enough for the knockout, but we do see Porygon Z causing some problems.
Yeah, Porygon Z definitely causing a little bit of disruption in this game, having got those special defense drops previously to help out Volcarona, and now able to apply some good pressure to that Marowak. Critically, the Urshifu on Marco's side is still around though in this game, and of course, we're going to have a little bit of the grassy terrain health regeneration as well at the end of this turn. Jamie will now of course be forced to bring in his own Urshifu from the back, and this is where the mind games happen and things get a little bit interesting. Obviously Urshifu can apply a lot of pressure to that opposing Marowak, but the Porygon Z as well, you'd almost want to target Urshifu into Urshifu, right? And then go for the Dark Pulse with the Porygon Z into the Alola Marowak. But if there's a few protects here, and Marco's able to capitalize on which Pokemon he defensively protects and then targets with the other one, it could be a little bit tricky for Jamie.
Yeah, I think Jamie just has to get his targeting right in these last couple of turns, and he'll be able to seal up this game. So really kind of smart ball positioning by him to have options, particularly having dark fighting options at the end of the game against an Urshifu and a Marowak. Really kind of nice, knowing his team inside and out, and making switches much earlier in the game that are really paying off for him. He is definitely mulling this move over though, letting the move timer run down to a total of 4 seconds. So definitely thinking it through.
Yeah, the Marowak protecting there on Marco's side, as the Urshifu goes for a Sucker Punch, called it into the Marowak slot there. So the Urshifu on Marco's side is going to be able to fire off a close combat into the Urshifu on Jamie's side, will be picking up the solid KO. But as long as this Porygon Z has targeted into that Urshifu, it may be able to get a KO, and being the faster of the two, then it's going to be able to pick up the KO against the Marowak on the next turn. As you can see, Jamie did manage to call the targeting correctly there, picks up the KO, and now it's just a Dark Pulse click away to win the set for Jamie.
Yep, I mean, even with the recovery from the grassy terrain, I just don't think the Marowak's going to be able to clutch this one out. And not having access to Flare Blitz for a number of turns on this game has been certainly a problem for this Marowak. Something that maybe Marco is going to have to think about as he plays out the rest of his games. Marowak, though, not even given the chance to try. A Dark Pulse from Porygon Z will seal up this game. And Jamie Boyt, a nice little 2-0 from there in round number 3.
Yeah, fantastic play there from both players. Phenomenal win there for Jamie as well, being able to really use that Porygon Z to change the board's stats in his favor and kind of manipulate the board position and make sure that he always had an advantage. On the other side though, Marco